Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inflectra's test automation series called Let's Test MS Dynamics Through the UI. We'll be exploring how to start testing the MS Dynamics that you have. You are joining us for the third webinar in the series, and today's topic is how to test MS Dynamics 365 for sales through the UI like a pro. Today's webinar will be presented by Denis Markovtsev, a principal software developer at Inflectra Corporation. He is one of the creators of Rapise test automation platform. He holds a master's degree in computer science and Ph.D. in mathematics, and has been working in the IT industry for the past 20 years in areas such as compilers, development environments, software verification, and testing. My name is Teresa, and I will be your moderator today. Before I turn it over to Denis, let's cover a few housekeeping issues. Today's webinar will last for about an hour and will consist of both theoretical and practical parts and end with a Q&A session. We ask that you save your questions until that time and use the built-in questions tab to send your questions. These will then be read out and answered. Today's webinar will be recorded. In a couple of days, we'll make the webinar recording available on Inflectra's YouTube channel under the playlist called Testing MS Dynamics. Links to each webinar recording will be emailed to you a few days after the live webinar. Or you can subscribe to Inflectra's YouTube channel to get notified when new recordings become available. To give you a little more information about the webinar series as a whole, Testing MS Dynamics is a 5-part series focusing on testing this Microsoft Dynamics family of products with Rapise. During this 5-part series, you will learn how to start testing the MS Dynamics product you have. We will demonstrate how to bootstrap a testing framework and perform essential test automation tasks. Our presenters will also teach how to organize teamwork and create tests that are easy to enhance and maintain. This series is running in parallel with our webinar series titled UI Automation 101. We suggest that this UI series is an excellent companion to this MS Dynamics series. For those of you not familiar with our test automation webinars, we recommend that you check out our previous 2 series, Test Automation Demystified and Planet Test Automation First Steps. Both are available on our YouTube channel. Last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, each webinar in the series has a practical part. We will demonstrate the key practical test automation concepts using Inflectra's own platform, Rapise. If you haven't downloaded the tool yet, please visit www.inflectra.com/Rapise and feel free to use Inflectra's 30-day free trial. So with those pieces of information out of the way, I'll hand it over to our presenter, Denis.
Thank you for the introduction, Teresa. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're all set. And I can start my demo on testing Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales. So the agenda for today, first, we will talk about how to test the latest interface of Dynamics 365, which is called Unified Interface. This is a successor of a previous interface that was around for many years before, and Unified Interface was introduced about a year and a half ago, and currently this is the main interface in Dynamics 365. During this presentation, I will show you the framework for testing Microsoft Dynamics that we created. This framework is free to use for all Rapise users. I will talk about architecture of this framework, and I will show you the demo how to add a pretty sophisticated test to this framework. So this demonstration will be pretty intense and will use a lot of features from Rapise, but don't be scared. We have a lot of online resources that will help you to learn Rapise. And also we provide training, and we'll be happy to make sure that your team knows the tool sufficiently enough to do real life testing. So let's talk about the framework. The framework is available on GitHub, and you can see the URL on your screen. So you may simply go to GitHub and download this framework. So I will show how you can do this. So I'm going to web browser and navigate into github.com. So this is the Git repository that a lot of development teams are using. And Inflectra has its own area on GitHub. So just append Inflectra to the URL, and you will reach the place where all our repositories are hosted. And the repository for Dynamics 365 for sales, this is this one. So Rapise Dynamics 365 CRM. If it is not on top, you can easily filter repositories here and it will be shown. So let's go into this repository. It contains a description of the parts of the framework. So you may read them and understand how this framework is organized. So I will talk about this part a bit later. So you may clone this framework to your machine, either using Git, or you may simply download the zip file with the framework and open it. And this is a zip file opened on your machine. So I will simply copy the contents of this zip file. We'll go to Documents and we'll paste the contents of this framework. So here it is. So I have a local copy of the framework, and now I will show how you can work with it. So this framework has a specific architecture. So let's return to our slides. In this architecture, we have one test which serves as a solution for all test cases implemented in this framework. And this main test of the framework has a global object repository, and it has some common functions that can be reused by all the tests in the framework. And the main test defines a repository in SpiraTest. SpiraTest, this is a test management solution from Inflectra. So I am just showing this picture. You may review it later so after the demonstration, it will make much more sense for you. So for now, it's just a brief overview. So, and every test case, like TC test 1 here, it contains the definition of test steps for the test case. It may also have local object repository, and it also may use functions from the parent test, from the main test. And every test case, every Rapise test implementing a specific scenario will be linked to a specific test case in Spira. So let's proceed to the demo. So during this demo, I will clone a template test in the framework, and I will implement initial navigation steps that will open CRM and we'll go to a specific module that we want to test. I will record test steps. We'll make sure that playback works. Then we will parameterize the test and we'll save this test to SpiraTest, and we'll make sure that we can schedule daily execution of this test. Okay, so let's proceed to implementing a scenario. So this is the framework. Let me open it in Rapise. So here it is. I'm switching to Files View on the left side, and here you can see that the framework already contains some test cases implemented. Create new lead, create price list, and opportunity workflow. We will implement this opportunity workflow once again during this session. so you will see how you can implement such complex scenario yourself. After the session, you may review again all the steps of this test if you will clone the repository from GitHub to your local machine. So let's start implementing a new test case. When you need to implement a new scenario, first thing to do, you need to clone the template test. So it has some initial configuration performed, so you don't need to, so to save your time and to not repeat steps again and again for each test scenario that you want to implement, you simply clone the template. I'm right-clicking it and choosing clone. So I will name it opportunity. So here is the test that we will be implementing. I will open it in Rapise. So I'm going to File, Open. Here is my the folder where my framework is located. Go into Opportunity, double-clicking. So it looks like internet connection is a bit slow today. Okay, yes. So here is an empty test, and let's open the steps that we already have here. So this is the RVL. If you are familiar with Rapise, then you know what it means. If not, you may go to the start page of Rapise. Here we have a link to getting started videos. So I advise you to watch those videos to become familiar with all the controls inside Rapise and how to use it in general. So after watching these videos, what I am telling right now will make much more sense to you. So first, the RVL is pretty simple. Anyway, so it has an object column. In this column, you specify on what object to act. In the action column, we have the name of the action to perform. And if an action requires some parameters, then last three columns are used to specify those parameters. Each parameter has a name, has a type, and has a value. So in this pre-configured template, we already have 4 steps defined. So let's look at those steps in more detail. So the first one is what may open CRM, may open Dynamics 365 in the browser automatically and even perform the login. So the login credentials and the URL are taken from config Excel file. It is not referenced in the main test. In this test, I will add a reference here, add files, and this config Excel file is here. It is in the root of the test framework, and it contains the URL for Dynamics 365, specifically the URL for Sales Hub of Dynamics 365, and you can also specify username and password. So currently here I have just a template for this, but I have this config Excel file field, and it is now placed on my desktop. So I simply will replace what I have in the framework. No, I'm not going to open it. I need to place this config file here. And here is the file with all the credentials on my desktop. I am simply copying it here and replacing. Okay, and now we can execute the first line. So you will see how CRM launch sales function works. Right-clicking the line and choosing place selection. So Rapise automatically opens the browser at the URL we provided in config Excel file and uses credentials to log in into Dynamics. Let's see what other steps we have here. The next step is one that may change the area. So the area is what we have here in the bottom left corner: sales, app settings, sales insight settings. So if you want a specific area, we can use this function. So the idea of functions is that you don't need to record every interaction with the application. So some complex interactions like logging into the application, changing area, they are already implemented in the framework. So you may just reuse them. So let's place selection so you will see how it works. So it clicks on sales and choosing the area. Let's go next. The third step chooses the entity that we will be testing. So in the template, we have leads, but our scenario that we will be implementing is about opportunities. So we want to click on opportunities here. So I will just change it to opportunities. So let's test it. Now we are inside opportunities. Let's see what next. So the next step we have here is clicking on some button on the toolbar. We want to create a new opportunity in our scenario. So let's test this line as well. So place selection. It should click on the new button. Okay, great. So from this point, we are ready to record our test scenario. So before doing recording, I recommend to always prepare the data that you will be entering into the application. So I have this data prepared in Google Docs. So for every field that I will be filling with data, I already prepared what data I will be using. So here it is. Let's start recording. So I click record button on the toolbar, and Rapise connects to Chrome browser. Clicking on topic, and the topic will be for this opportunity, test automation software. So next I'm going to select to choose the contact. So this is the lookup field. This is a pretty complex object inside CRM, so it has a drop down, and when you do recording for it, you need to follow a specific sequence of steps. So first, you need to enter the exact contact name that you want. So in my case, it will be Cat Francis. And the drop down will show you the list fetched from the database. Just click on the name. And I will do the same for account. So clicking on account will be Coho Winery, and clicking on the first item as well. Here you can see that all my actions are recorded in the bottom right corner. So clicking on contacts, clicking on account, so everything is here. So what else I want to insert? So Currently, Rapise is in capturing mode, so it intercepts all keyboard and mouse. If I need to switch to some other application, for example, to answer to someone in Messenger or check email or look at the data that I need to enter into specific field, I need to pause recording here in the recording activity dialog box. Switch to the application. I can move this window to any location on the screen. So what I want to enter next, purchase time frame this quarter and customer needs and proposed solution. Okay. So resuming recording. Okay. And purchase time frame, selecting this quarter and scrolling to customer need. Automate testing and proposed solution in this case is Rapise. Okay, so the next step in my scenario, clicking on save button. Here it is, and this opportunity was saved. Then I want to go through the workflow that you can see here at the top of the page. So the line and the stages that my opportunity needs to follow. So I am expanding the stage to verify what if I entered all the data needed for this stage. So let's also mark that we identified decision maker. So set the checkbox, and I'm going to the next stage. So let's check a couple of other checkboxes here. Go into next stage. Let's check that we developed the proposal, presented the proposal. Next stage, completed proposal. So I'm finishing my scenario. Then I need to enter, I want to enter the date for decision date. So to do this, I will not use the calendar. So I will just enter the date manually. So the date will be 5/10/2021, and so where is the 5? Okay, and click in finish. Closing it, and I also want to delete this opportunity after I created it to clean up the system, because I'm going to execute this test many times. I do not want a lot of garbage in my system. So also I noticed that when I clicked on the close button, the name for this button is not something that is very descriptive. So I may change it right here to close. And now I will delete this opportunity. So go in here, click in delete, and confirm. Okay, so I think that I performed all the steps, and I click finish button in the recording activity. And I will insert my steps here after the steps that open the browser and navigate to opportunities. So this is where I will insert my steps. Here is this scenario. So this is pretty easy to understand. So it has the names of the fields with which I interacted, the actions that I performed, do click, do set text, the text that I entered in those fields. If it is a checkbox, then you can see that we have do set check with a Boolean value, true or false, what we did with this checkbox. All right, so I'm saving this file, and I'm now ready to start executing this test. And I will need to make sure that the test steps that I recorded can be successfully replayed back. So I will not close the browser because it's in pretty the state that I need. And I may start execution of Rapise test from any specific step. Since browser is already opened, I may start execution from the clicking new button. Also notice here I had two more steps that were already in the template. So this is the step that waits for an object with a specific ID in the object repository to be present on screen. So it makes sure that before we start interacting with the fields, everything is completely loaded on the page. So I'm running this test, and I will choose here play from here. So here we see that click was okay, but the data is not entered here into the field. So when Rapise is not able to do something, it shows an error in the report. So let's look at Rapise. It says that object is not found, Cat Francis. To go to the specific step where this error occurred, we may click the last link in the error description. So clicking it, and here is the line that did not work. So by looking at these steps, I can see that here we have a click on the contact, and then Rapise looks for Cat Francis to appear in the list. But the setting of the text is the next action here. It may happen, sometimes sections may be swapped because Rapise listens to events that occur inside the browser, and this event sometimes may come in some mixed order. So we just need to switch a couple of lines. So what I need to do, I will add one line here. We'll copy this line and we'll place it here. And we'll delete this one. So let's see, for account, we have the same situation. So actually, when I'm inserting, Rapise moves other lines to the bottom. Okay. Seems we are okay, and I will execute it from this position. So what I want to show here and emphasize here is that sometimes things may not be very smooth, and this is okay because this is web testing. This is the most complex of all technologies that can be tested with Rapise, so desktop, mobile, and web. So web is the most complex. And Rapise has all the tools that help you to understand what does not work, why it does not work, and also you have the tools that will help you to fix issues that you may encounter. So playing from here. So far, so good. And Rapise make sure that the field is visible before clicking on it. Okay, works well. So I noticed that data was not entered correctly. Let's see what we have at the place where we enter the data. So here I see that we have 2 clicks on the date field, and it seems that one of those clicks is what we need to delete. So let's run this test. Oh, the browser was closed. Okay, this is because the last 2 lines from our template is executing the cleanup sheet in RVL, which is currently empty. And the last line here is closing the browser. So for now, I will comment this. I do not want to close the browser until I'm sure that my test works. And also, I will move the cleanup code that deletes everything from the system that we created to cleanup sheet. So I'm selecting these lines and pasting them here to cleanup sheet. And I will delete these lines here. So you can get the idea that in RVL you may create multiple sheets and you may execute those sheets one from another. So this is the way to make test steps more manageable and easy to understand. So you may split your test scenario into different sheets. So let's execute the scenario until the position where we are supposed to enter the text. So I want to make sure that it really works. So internet connection is broken. So let's see. Works again. So I'm selecting everything from this line to the line that starts the new opportunity and choosing a selection. Oh, the browser was closed, so let's stop execution. We need to run from the very beginning. Go in parallel, extend the selection. So Rapise can connect to the browser that is already running. You may start execution of your test from any position. So it makes troubleshooting and development of the test much more easier than with absence of such features. So far works. Okay, so I see that execution will stop at this point. So let's see why. So Rapise did not find customer need object. So this is the field where we entered customer need. So I can go to the line. I may find this object in the object repository, and I may check. Maybe it was not on the page at the time we tried to find it. Click in Flash, not found. Let's scroll the page. But I can see that customer need is found. Let's flash again. Now it is found. So this is an interesting point about CRM. So sometimes fields that are not visible on the screen are not present, actually are not present on the page. And you need to scroll to a specific position before this field will become available. So this is covered by one of the functions that we have in our framework. This function is called CRM scroll to. So actually a field is not present, but the section for this field is always present in the DOM tree. So we just need to find out what is the name of this section. So if we look at the description of this scroll to function, it suggests us to determine the data ID attribute of the section that contains the field that we need. To determine it, we can run this expect expression in WebSpy. So I'm copying the expression to clipboard, and in Rapise, I'm launching WebSpy. It connects to the browser and loads the DOM tree of all the elements. So here in expect edit field at the top, I am pasting the expect expression and executing it. So in the test results pane, I see all the elements found here. So our field that was not present in the DOM, it is customer need. So I can move it here, customer need. So you can see when I click on it in the test results, or I may do highlight, it is highlighted. And the data ID for this field is customer ID. So I copy this to clipboard, closing the WebSpy, and I will add just one more line to my test. So before interacting with customer need, I will use function CRM scroll to, and this is where I need to scroll. So it will work next time, and Rapise will scroll to the field, even if it is not present on the page yet. So I wanted to execute until entering the date. So place selection. Also, you probably noticed that we clicked on save. The save operation consumed a few seconds, and also qualify link was available during the save. So I saw that Rapise clicked on it, but nothing happened. So it means that after clicking on the save, we need to wait a bit more before proceeding with our scenario. So here, after save, before clicking on qualify, I will add one more step, global do sleep, and let's wait for at least 5 seconds. So sometimes CRM may be really slow. So executing the rest of our steps. So almost at the place that I need. Okay, and now I will execute the lines that enter the date, and we'll check if it works. works. Okay, so now I'm sure that my scenario works. So play from here to complete all the steps. Yeah. So I have a working scenario and it's okay. So the next step in my demo will be parameterization of this scenario. So I want to put the data that this scenario is using into external spreadsheet. So in my framework, switching to files view, I have data Excel file. And the idea of this file is to have a specific sheet for every test case in my framework. So I may put all the data here. So since I'm replicating opportunity workflow test case, I will just reuse the data already defined here. So here we are entering the topic, contact, account. So I will not be parameterizing everything, just a few fields in my scenario. So this sheet name is opportunity workflow, and the name of the fields, I will copy them to clipboard, returning to RVL. So here at the top of my RVL sheet, I have definition of columns that we can use from our sheet with data. And here I need to put the names of columns. Oh, sorry. I will put them manually. Contact, account, and the last one is identify decision maker. So this is the checkbox. So why I need this step? I need this step to make it easier to do parameterization. For example, here is the step that enters text for a topic. So now here I may change the type of this parameter to data. And now I have the drop down. So values from this drop down are taken from here, from this definition of data table. So here I will choose topic. At the place where we enter in the contact name, I will use contact and account. And also let's scroll to the checkbox, identify decision maker. Here it is. And here I will use data from the table as well. The real data is defined in Excel spreadsheet. So here is where we are binding to external spreadsheet. I need to specify the name of the sheet. The name of the sheet is opportunity workflow. Okay, where we are. So let's test that reading data from Excel works. So I'm going to execute just one line. This is the line that enters topic. Play selection. So what we have here, we need to click on the field before entering anything. Play selection. Okay, so it works. So I parameterized my test. Now it grabs the data from here and enters it into application. And the last step, so looks like our test is completed. So let's uncomment this part and execute the whole scenario. So closing it and running from scratch. So when scenario is implemented, the last step is to set up a regular execution of your tests. And this is what I'm going to do next. I will save my framework into Spira and will schedule execution. I'm going to finish the presentation in the next 5-7 minutes. So you may think about questions. Okay, delete it and close. So here we see that when we are closing the browser, it did not finish all the jobs yet. So, and it also displays us that we did not enter some values for new opportunity. Actually, we did not start it. So this is kind of a bit weird behavior in CRM as well. So to not spend a lot of time on this, I will change the line, the last line of my test, to completely close the browser no matter what. So to do this, instead of navigator close, we can use kill browser. Also, I forgot to mention that for this demonstration, I'm using Rapise 6.4. It will be released in May, so pretty soon. So if you will not see some features that I'm using in Rapise 6.3, this is because I'm using Rapise 6.4. Okay, here it is. And so it's time to use Spira. So I'm going to Spira. Here it is. And here I need to define 2 test cases. So I'm going to test cases. And I need to define one test case that will contain the repository that has all the files of my framework. So I will name it Dynamics 365 demo. And one more test case, I will name it opportunity. So now in Rapise, first I need to save all my framework. I go to the main test of my framework that contains all the files. And on the toolbar, I'm clicking Save to Spira and selecting the test case. Okay, and it should store all the files into Spira. So when save is completed, we may go to Spira, open the test case, and if save operation was successful, we will see here that automation engine for this test case is Rapise, and here is the name of our test. So the last step of saving to Spira, I need to link my specific test case for opportunity workflow with the test case in Spira. So I am opening it, opportunity. Here it is. So this is our test. Okay. Yes. So and I'm going to save it as well. Oh, sorry. Looks like internet connection problem. Saving it to Spira. Opportunity. Okay, so looks like Rapise saved everything to Spira. We can go into opportunity and check. Yes, so save was successful. The next step is we need to schedule execution of our tests. To do execution, unattended execution, Rapise has a specific component which is called Rapise Launcher. We added a link to it in Rapise 6.4 here. So starting Rapise Launcher. At this point, I may close Rapise completely. So Rapise Launcher is a component that connects to Spira and listens for tests for jobs that it needs to perform. So what tests to execute and upload the results back to Spira. So, and this Rapise Launcher identifies itself to Spira with this automation token, CRM1. So let's return to Spira. And here I need to define the test set. Test set is a collection of test cases. So I will create a new test set. So unit is saving it. So for the test set, I need to specify on what host with Rapise I want to execute this test set. So here I will choose CRM1. When I want to execute, I will choose some date in the past. I may also specify the recurrence, how I want to execute. So let's execute it daily, for example. And I need to specify test cases to include. This one, Dynamics Demo, is the special test case that holds the whole framework. And opportunity is what really does real work. So I'm selecting it and saving it. So here, Rapise Launcher sends queries to Spira on some regular basis. And hopefully we will see that, so it needs to execute the test that we just created. And when execution is completed, results are uploaded back to Spira. So it may be a lot of information for you for the beginning. I just want to mention that we do training and we can ensure that you know how to use the tool and implement your scenarios effectively. Okay. So almost ready. So now results are uploaded back to Spira. I am opening Spira. And here I need to go to test runs. Yeah, and here I can see that I have a test run that was successful. I can open it and see the detailed report of all the steps executed by Rapise. So if there are errors, I will see them here. All right, so this demonstration is completed. So thanks for your attention, and I'm handing the word to Teresa.
Thank you so much, Denis, for that great presentation. I think our colleague Alexei has joined us and will help with any questions that viewers had.
Yes, that's right, Teresa. We have a couple of questions to Denis. So first is it possible to use the date picker instead? This is how the question sounds.
I do not recommend to use date picker instead, because the date picker may be updated at some point, and this is a very complex object, so it's easy to use for a human, but it is an object that is very hard to automate. So much better is to enter the date by just providing the string of this date. So the answer is better not to use the date picker itself. It may lead to issues. Yeah.
Next question, and we have one more. Would it be possible to use an implicit wait instead of a sleep for 5,000 milliseconds?
So let's see what specific place of the test we are talking about. So there are different ways how you can wait for something to occur in the application, and we use two of them in this scenario. This one is just waiting for a specific number of seconds. This one on line 23 is we are waiting for a specific object to appear on screen. And when this object is available, Rapise immediately proceeds to next steps. Why, for example, we have two lines here is because even if an object is present on the page, sometimes it is not ready yet for interaction. So you may see it, you may click on it, and nothing will happen. So this is why we have such two lines here. Also, this do wait for action has optional parameters. So I may add them by clicking params button on the toolbar. So the first optional parameter is timeout. By default is 10 seconds. So if an object is not found during 10 seconds, then Rapise proceeds to next steps. And also here we have additional wait after an object was found. So actually we may delete this line 28 and enter 3 seconds here. So this action will wait for maximum test seconds for topic field to appear on screen, and when it is found, we'll wait for 3 seconds after that. So
Okay.
hopefully I answered the question.
Now, next question is, can you explain a bit more about the framework? Does this include libraries specifically for CRM? Can you use Rapise without downloading the framework?
Good question. So first, the library for interacting with CRM controls and the configuration for Rapise recorder to effectively record from CRM. It all is included in Rapise. So you are not required to use the framework. So you are not required to use this framework. You may create your own, and you may use this framework as a reference and source of ideas for your own framework. But we created this framework to gather in one place all the ideas and features that so with this framework, we make a lot of decisions for you in advance, so you don't need to spend time on this. If you want to create your own, no problem, you can do this.
Okay, one more question. Why doesn't the scroll get captured during recording of the test?
Scrolling is pretty complex thing, and it does not generate any events in the browser. So unfortunately, there is no way how we can record scrolling operation. Also, this scrolling may depend on the screen size and on different sizes of the screen, different lengths of scrolling may be required. So for now, we propose to use this scrolling function. So actually, when the object is not visible, but it is present on the page, the scrolling is performed automatically. No need to insert additional steps. Why we use this CRM scroll tool? This is because if element is not visible, it is not present on the page. So we had to use some other element, the container of this element, to perform this scrolling. So maybe we will find a way to make this simpler. At this point, this is the solution.
Okay, thank you. So these were all the questions we had today.
Thank you. Great questions.
Yes, thank you for the participants for those great questions. Thanks to Alexei for joining us to moderate the questions, and to Denis for today's presentation. We will send out an email in a couple of days with a link to the recording of the webinar. We hope that you will join us for the next webinar in this series titled How to Test Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations through the UI like a Pro. That's scheduled for Wednesday, May 27th at 10 a.m. If you're interested in the Companion UI Automation 101 series, please plan to attend the next webinar, 7 Little-Known Ways to Leverage RVL, and that will be on May 13th at 10 a.m. Until then, thanks to Alexei, thanks to Denis, and thanks for watching.